Hey Sassy Nari, welcome to Little Fixes. This is your host Matri, a social media professional, a mother, and a simple yet sassy woman just like you. Join me for 3 simple and practical ideas that help you in transforming into your best self. This mental health and personal growth podcast is a reminder that you matter. Hello Sassy Nari, thank you for joining me today. Little Fixes Pay, I have spoken to many entrepreneurs, and today, for the first time, I have a techpreneur with me. Madhavi Shankar is the co-founder and CEO of SpaceBasic Inc. Today, over 50 top colleges and universities use SpaceBasic to empower their campus housing communities by digitizing everyday tasks and communications to deliver a better living experience. अब मैं कभी हॉस्टल में नहीं रही हूँ तो I don't have much idea about how this works, but Madhavi will tell us about it. More importantly, इस टॉक में माधवी से जानेंगे कि what it takes to be a woman in leadership, what are their unique challenges and how to overcome them. We'll talk about entrepreneurship skills and life, how she moved to being an entrepreneur in India from working in a software startup in Australia, how her work experience helped her in setting up a company, what challenges she faced, what mistakes she made and what she has learned along the way. माधवी हमें ये भी बताएंगी कि सक्सेस उनके लिए क्या है, वो कैसे अपने वर्क और पर्सनल लाइफ को इंटीग्रेट करती हैं, कैसे अपने आप को रिचार्ज करती हैं एंड मच मोर. तो ये इंटरव्यू सिर्फ एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप के बारे में नहीं बल्कि एक एंटरप्रेन्योर की लाइफ के बारे में है जिसमें हर किसी के लिए कुछ टेक अवे है. Before hearing from Madhavi Shankar, please follow Little Fixes on your podcast app and share it with a friend who might benefit from it. And now to our guest. Hi Madhavi, welcome to Little Fixes.
Hi, thank you so much for having Maitri.
So Madhavi, I told a little bit about your life, but we'd like to hear from you about your early life.
Sure. I'm born and raised in a South Indian family. I come from Bangalore. My parents are both doctors, and I have a younger sister. And for us, education was always kind of an important milestone while we were growing up. And kind of did my schooling here in Bangalore. Then I moved to Australia for my master's after also pursuing my engineering from here. And while I was in Australia is where I really kind of, experienced my first startup experience. But, that's a bit of a fast forward. But for me, it's been a very typical South Indian upbringing where education is kind of like the most important thing that really revolved around our lives while we were in school and all the way until graduating. So we were always told that's an important factor towards success, and that's how we were always brought up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you had your first startup experience in Australia. You were working there and then you decided to start your own company, right?
Yes. So basically, I went there as an international student for my master's. While I was there, I started working for an early stage startup. So this was before startups were cool and before startups were a buzzword, right? So as an international student, I really just wanted to kind of find a job. But I was very sure that if I were going to work a job, it had to be something that I can put on my resume that is going to kind of help me build my career trajectory. Now, what usually happens is when international students go, they mostly end up doing jobs, or mostly end up doing jobs that pay well, or that really not thinking through how this time is important to really kind of build skills, etc. And for me, I think I was pretty clear that if I was going to do something, that I will do something in my space. And luckily enough, I was able to land an interview with the early stage startup. I played many roles. I actually applied to be an intern. Then I did front desk receptionist. I did door to door sales,
Wow.
and ended up in software testing, and then finally made it product manager. But I loved that journey, and I think that's what really shaped me up to be an entrepreneur that I am today.
Wow, that's very interesting. You did everything. So, Madhvi, also tell us what you did your master's in and what was the company, like the startup, what was it about?
So I did my master's in engineering, and I pursued an MBA in technology management after that. So that's what I studied. And the startup, are you talking about the startup that I used to work for or
Yes, yes,
currently?
yes. The one you were
Yes.
working for.
Uh-huh. So we built mission critical applications for telecommunication companies. So if you walk into, let's say, for example, a Airtel or a Vodafone store, you select a phone, you select a plan, and then they do a ID check and a credit check, saying, okay, fine, you are not eligible for an iPhone 15, but based on your credit score, you're eligible for an iPhone, let's say 8 or 9. So things like that, right? So we did that entire process of contracting as well as kind of ID checking, and the storefront is what we built for most of these telcos. We were actually pretty successful and deployed across 400, 500 stores, and then kind of successfully got acquired by a Canadian company.
Okay, wow, very interesting. Then you are working in a very different sector, था वो भी टेक। फिर आपने अपना स्टार्टअप का, आपको ये आइडिया कहाँ से आया कि मुझे इस फील्ड में जाना है, कि मुझे ऐसा सॉफ्टवेयर बनाना है जिससे स्टूडेंट्स की लाइफ इजी हो जाए? हाउ डिड यू गेट दिस आइडिया?
I think it's more to draw with my experience as an international student. Um, when we are in India, we're kind of very heavily focused on curriculum. I think now things are changing, obviously, but this is, almost 10 years ago. It was very focused on curriculum, very focused on, grades. There's really no kind of student experience per se. And
Mm-hmm.
most of it was manual anyway back in the day, at least what I used to
Yeah.
be, what I have been used to. But when I went to Australia, I think there was a shift in paradigm in terms of experience as an international student in general. For example, communication was more collaborative,
Mm-hmm.
and I think you're nurtured to kind of do more things and different things, and it's just not grade heavy. So I really enjoyed that experience, and I think that contributed to me doing well, and also using some of what I studied into my day to day work as well. And I think that entire experience, and it was also very digital, I must add. It was mostly online. It was a lot of communities online to help out. So I really enjoyed that experience, and I knew that when I wanted to start my company, it has to be something in the education or edtech sector.
Mm-hmm.
So I always knew the sector I wanted to work in, not but didn't know what problem that we will be solving until we really did that research and due diligence.
ओके। सो हाउ डिड यू फाइंड योर को-फाउंडर? बिकॉज़ हम लोग सोचते तो बहुत हैं कि कोई मिल जाए अच्छा-सा जिसके साथ हम एक कंपनी स्टार्ट कर पाएँ, अपने आइडिया को विंग्स दे पाएँ। बट बहुत मुश्किल होता है कोई ऐसा मिल पाना जिससे हमारी बैंडविड्थ मिल जाए, आइडियाज़ मिल जाएँ, वर्किंग स्टाइल मिल जाए या एटलीस्ट कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री हो। तो हाउ डिड यू फाइंड योर को-फाउंडर एंड आल्सो डिड यू क्विट योर जॉब बिफोर स्टार्टिंग?
So I'll answer the quitting the job part first, saying yes, I did. So when I met with so this was around the time that we were getting acquired, and I thought it's a good idea to kind of quit my job and move back to India. But in 2017, I got introduced to my now co-founder. She's a successful woman entrepreneur from Silicon Valley, and I was introduced to her. I emailed her and said, "Hey, look, I'm traveling to the U.S. and I'd love to meet you. I would like to start my company, so I would love to get your thoughts and insights." And she wrote back and she said, "Sure." So I did meet with her. That one conversation led to multiple conversations during while I was there, and we also almost ended up, chalking out a business plan as well. And she said, "Look, if we decided, because we both are of Indian origin, we knew that transformation had to happen there in India, and that's around the time as well, around 16, 17, 18, around that period where you know." Startups were catching up, and a lot of buzz around it. So we knew that that's the place we have to be. Um, And she also has experience in building technology companies. She's done that very successfully, ran her own, advises many, invests in a few. So I was just like, so she said, look, I'll do this with you. So before she could change her mind, I kind of came back to Australia, quit my job, packed my luggage, came back to India to really start over and figure out what problem we'll be solving. So yeah, that was the process for me.
Wow, that was a brave step, I must say. So, weren't you scared कि मैंने अपनी जॉब छोड़ दी है, मैं इंडिया वापस आ गई हूँ और अपनी कंपनी स्टार्ट करनी है? आई डोंट नो ये सक्सेसफुल होगा कि नहीं। कभी मतलब नेगेटिव थॉट्स आए आपके मन में, या मे बी जो आपके अराउंड लोग थे उन्होंने कभी आपके मन में डाला कि व्हाट आर यू डूइंग माधवी?
Yeah, of course. I had a lot of that, a lot of, especially when I started, a lot of people were perplexed as to why am I coming back, leaving a job that paid me really well, and working with hostels of all the things, you
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
Uh, but I think, and yes, of course, as a first-time entrepreneur and you're taking a big step, and you definitely are bound to be scared. But the thing is, look, if you're going to start a company, nine out of them fail. So failure is something that is inevitable.
Hmm.
The question is, how will you navigate through that? Right. So you can't be scared of failure. If you're going to start a startup, then you can't be a founder. Right. The conviction has to be strong enough to say, look, I'm going to take the step. All the data points say don't start. If you think about starting a company, all the data points say don't start a company. So
Yeah.
it's really instinctive and it's very, very gut feeling driven. Initially when you want to start something, there are no data points that will actually support your decision. So
Hmm.
it's a very personal gut feeling. You really have to be passionate to start a company, and more than starting, to weather through the storm. I
Yeah.
think resilience is, and that attitude of not giving up. A lot of things when you start are in the unknown. So I think being able to navigate through that and being able to have successful, for me, having a co-founder who's really been there, done that, helped a lot. Um, to help a lot of the go through a lot of these first time entrepreneur curves, and potential pitfalls, and all of these navigating through all these things really helped. And also, finding good people, mentors, customers, partners, and having a solid business plan, really talking to customers, figuring, at the end of the day, you're solving a problem for them and you're asking them to pay for it.
Hmm.
So if we don't include them in that loop, and if you don't know what you're building, that's not very longevity wise, that's not going to kind of scale or grow. So I think that was very important for us. And even from my background, we came from a very product driven, customer driven company. For me, that was the mindset. For my founder, also co-founder, that was also the mindset. So yeah, I think all of this really helped in navigating through the unknown and um, the first time founder experience.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then you started working on it. You have a product at your hand. Now you have to go about pitching it. Ki, I have made this, and to maybe colleges, universities, or wherever you're doing. How was that like? How was that experience like?
Actually, we started selling before we had a product.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, how that happened is when I decided. Okay, so when I knew I wanted to do, like, solve a problem with technology in the education space, but I didn't quite know what that was.
Mhm.
So I had to. I spent a good almost a year just studying the market, speaking with a lot of universities, different stakeholders, parents, staff members, teachers. You know. Student housing providers happen to come to be a part of that in the process, right? It was what we learned was that when I started speaking to universities and schools of different sizes and different stakeholders, a common trend was that a lot of about 80% of universities today use almost little to no technology outside of the classroom. So outside of a learning management system or a classroom management system or admissions or a very a generic ERP, there's really no software or no kind of technology that is used to enhance student experience on campus. More than that, it was also in the back end operations level, because managing something like student housing or cafeteria or mess, as we call it, is very fragmented and heavily manually driven.
Mhm.
even today in most cases. So when we kind of stumbled upon that, we started speaking to more and more universities, and from the well-known ones to the lesser-known ones, all of them had the same problem. And then we went to 2 3 and say, hey, look, we're going to solve this problem for you. Will you pay us for it? And they said, sure. So we picked 3 pilot customers, and then we launched. Even our pilots were paid pilots. So then we launched the beta version of our POC of the app, where customers were extremely involved in the product evolution and building process. So that's how we started, and that's how we kind of grew and scaled the product since.
Wow, so that's kind of foolproof because you had an idea. पहले आपने पता कर लिया जाके कि क्या उनके gaps हैं, and then you built a product. मतलब it's a very different approach. Mostly क्या होता है, people think of a product, फिर उसके बाद वो उसको धीरे धीरे modify करते हैं. Obviously there is always scope for modification, but mostly people start their business, फिर उसके बाद वो customer ढूंढते हैं और उसके बाद modification आता है. So your approach was very different, and I'm sure you got good success with it because you already had an idea, you already had customers, right?
Yeah, so we understood the space better, I would say,
Mhm.
with this approach. And what it also helped us was really kind of, reduce sales cycles, or get in front of the right stakeholders, etc. So I think definitely it helped us. I think sometimes what happens is, if we don't proper do customer research, you might get your first 2 or 3 customers, then become stagnant, then you have to go and
Mhm.
change the product. So for us, I think it was a more streamlined process in terms of growth, of how we were able to scale and kind of grow that. So I definitely, this approach was, I think it's more sustainable. I think the way I look at it is, if you're building something for somebody and you're asking them to pay for it, it better solve their problem.
Mhm.
And that's what we try to do.
Okay, great. So Madhvi, you had a product and you gave it to your customers, and things started happening. But when did you feel that you had your first success? Ki, हाँ, I have made an impact.
hmm I think it was when we were able to. So I was able to sell it. As an entrepreneur or a founder, your passion, it's passion sales. You're selling it, from passion. People are convinced and they will buy it. You will still get some success. But I think when you're able to get that replicated from
Mhm.
salespeople's, other kind of team members, I think that's where you have your first aha moment. That great, I can sell, but other people are also selling my product, which means that there is value. So I think my
Mhm.
first kind of aha moment with Space Basic was when I was able to have sales a sales team, and they were able to sell the product effectively.
Wow. Okay. So then, Madhvi, I'm sure you had your share of challenges as well. So tell us about maybe the biggest challenge you faced and how you overcame it.
I think challenges are fun and are a part of what we do every
Hmm.
day. I think I would say I don't know about biggest challenges, but I think some of the most recurring challenges that need to be fixed at almost every stage is definitely hiring the right team, hiring the right people. Very important early on. Product, again, comes back to teams. At the end of the day, it's team is everything, right? Now, engineering is another thing that you want to make sure you have the right set of people. You're always going to be like understaffed, at least in the beginning. You want to have the right set of people who will help you and who will work with you and pick up that slack, and kind of work with you as it is their own company. So I think always hiring would be something of a challenge that we often kind of navigate through. But apart from that, I think just general, right? Getting your customers fast, being in the market fast. How can you build that? How can you be ahead of competition, strategy? I think all of these things are recurring challenges, and the best way that I have seen to kind of work with them is to have a good set of mentors, have a good set of policies, and kind of more than policies, really strategies in place, that you are continuously reviewing and speaking with people and speaking with your team of advisors and mentors, and kind of addressing them as they come through.
Mhm. So we spoke about success, we spoke about challenges. Now we'd like to hear about a mistake you made and
Mm.
what did it teach you?
Mistakes are made every day almost, I think
Mhm.
lesser now than before. But I think, initially, um, as entrepreneurs, we kind of, for me, I think it is, um, um, when I want to say hiring, that you hire, you hire sometimes based on instinct, which is good, but sometimes also not that good. So especially early on, right, you're just hiring based on instinct. And I think there were a couple of, I don't want to say bad hires, but I would say probably not a good fit. That is more expensive to the company in terms of time and energy and resources versus not having somebody at all.
Mhm.
So I think now we are more tactical about the way we bring in people who will represent us and be a part of us and kind of grow the company as well as individually along with us. So I think my learning has significantly been towards that.
Mhm. Interesting. And Madhvi, how did your job experience help you in your business?
I think it played a very pivotal role. If I did not have startup experience prior to starting my own company, I don't know if I would have done, I would have built Space Basic. I feel
Mm.
like experience a startup, especially as a, one of the early employees and being a part of that core team, really gives you, very firsthand. I would say experience of how a company is built, what are the typical challenges, how our teams are hired, that entire experience. Like I said, I started as an intern, pretty much did everything, and as any early employee in any company would do. And I
Mm.
think if I didn't have that experience, I don't think that I would have ever thought about starting a company. So I think that definitely was a major catalyst.
Mhm. Yes. And Madhvi, you are in a male dominated industry, which is tech space. So how has your experience been? I know कि लोग कहते हैं कि वुमेन entrepreneur नहीं बोलना चाहिए and all this I understand और entrepreneur सब एक जैसे हैं but I think women have their own set of challenges or maybe some stereotypes attached with them. So we'd like to know your experience.
I think I don't look at it as male or female.
Mm.
I know we keep getting asked this, and we keep kind of like, at least the way I have been, I would like to say brought up is we were never really kind of discriminated based on gender. I've never felt that women can't do what men can in a way. We've always kind of uh, looked at opportunities in a very objective approach and a way. But having said that, definitely they have been experiences or encounters where you do think of your gender and you just like kind of like
Mhm.
shrug it away. Or I think it's good to address it, so you're educating the other person as well. Also, sometimes in our culture it's very subconscious. It's kind of
Mhm.
like rooted in the fabric
Yeah.
of our experience, and even as women, the way we react to it is pretty like it's just like we accept it.
Huh.
So
Mhm.
when it comes to gender per se, I think things are definitely changing. But according to me, I just feel like I don't let that affect me. I never, seldom, very seldom think of gender unless I've had an experience. One experience can be the usual statistics is women startups get funded much lesser compared to
Yeah.
men. And one of the reasons why that is because for example, men pitch more confidently than women.
Mm.
Women are more realistic when it comes to showing targets and achieving those targets. However, when based on data and statistically, men kind of look at more higher targets or more kind of larger scale and larger kind of thing. But
Mm.
whether you achieve it or not, you don't know, and the statistics don't show that all of them do. But the thing is, that's what it is, right? So we're realists in most ways, and practically kind of, if we have, say, look, we have a goal, we tend to usually reach that goal or in the vicinity of that goal.
Mm.
But raising money is a completely different story. It's art. It's not science. So you want to tell. So a lot of these kind of things of learning and unlearning has to happen as a founder and as an entrepreneur. That's our job, regardless of our gender.
Mhm.
For me, as I said, it's been good because I've been able to learn these things and kind of get the help I need to navigate. But yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, like raising money initially was a bit of a challenge, especially during COVID and after COVID, and during that. But luckily for us, we've been able to bootstrap the business. We started with our own savings. We've been customer revenue funded from day one, so it wasn't too much of a challenge in terms of navigating. But definitely learning, unlearning is a part of what we do. And sometimes you need to consider the gender aspect and why something works better for one gender versus the other.
Mhm. Okay. So you said that you always address when someone discriminates in a way, like when they maybe stereotype in you or other women. So do you remember any specific incident?
Well, I think this was very, very early on where I met somebody, and one of the questions I guess I got asked was, "Oh, so what happens? Would you continue to pursue your company? Let's say if you got married or you were relocated." So I just said, "Do you ask your male founder the same question?" You know.
Hmm.
So I thought it was a bit obnoxious, to be honest. I think
Hmm.
it's from the individual side, but yeah, things like that, they happen so often. You just kind of like nib it when you hear it and kind of move on. So it's really a reflection of I would like to think of individual kind of mindset versus what socially it's definitely changing.
Hmm. So I think we are not going to need a separate sass it up section for Madhvi because we already got a sassy response from a real life incident. And Madhvi, you told them, okay, do you ask your my male counterparts the same thing? What was their response like?
He was actually pretty good about it. He said, "Oh yeah, that's right. We don't."
Oh
You
wow.
know, so he was good about it. So yeah, so it's good to be kind of. I think it's good to address things when they
Yes.
happen, so you can move on from that situation.
यस यस सो माधवी हमने बहुत सारी एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप की बातें की हैं अब थोड़ा सा आपके लाइफ की साइड पे आते हैं जो आपकी पर्सनल लाइफ है हमें सबसे पहले तो आप यही बताओ बिकॉज वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट मेल फीमेल और कैसे वुमेन से पूछा जाता है हाउ वुड यू बैलेंस योर पर्सनल लाइफ एंड योर वर्क लाइफ व्हाट आर योर थॉट्स ऑन दैट कि कुछ चीज़ें होती हैं जैसे अभी ये भी चल रहा है कि हसल कल्चर इज टॉक्सिक तो हसल नहीं करना चाहिए अपनी मेंटल हेल्थ का ध्यान रखना चाहिए विच इज़ अ गुड थिंग बट डू यू थिंक इट इज़ ऑलवेज feasible to काइंड ऑफ बैलेंस एवरीथिंग कि हाँ आज मैंने इतना काम करा है तो अब मैं उतना ही आराम करूंगी या मैं उतना ही टाइम अपनी फैमिली को या अपने पर्सनल इंटरेस्ट को दूंगी या फिर यू आर मोर इनटू कि आज मैंने इस चीज़ पे ज़्यादा काम किया मे बी नेक्स्ट देयर विल बी अ फेज व्हेन आई विल बी फोकसिंग ऑन अदर थिंग्स मोर लाइक व्हाट इज योर अप्रोच लाइक
I think this whole work life balance is, according to me, I think it's a bit overrated, at least the way people speak about
Yeah.
it. When you're passionate about something, you tend to find time and ways to do it. When you can love a lot of things. You can love your work, you can love your family, you can love a lot of things. Some days work is more important, some days your family need more attention. So I think work life balance is when you're able to attend to what is more important on which day. It doesn't mean that 9 to 5, after 5 I shut my laptop and I'm going to spend my time with I don't think so. Like this is what works for me. And if you want to achieve great things, you need to be able to do things that what people don't normally do, which means
Hmm.
hustle.
Hmm.
So if you're okay with or are happy and content with what you are currently doing, great, right? It really all kind of boils down to what do you want to do and what makes you happy and what would you like to achieve. Really, at the end of the day, that's it. So different people have different kind of priorities and aspirations, which is absolutely fine. But to
Yes.
be running a business, to be responsible for people who have, and then their families, um, you know I can't shut off and say, look, I'm sorry, I'm not going to work after five, right? I need to, I'm responsible for people and their families, and I'm running a business and companies. Of course, some days it's extremely stressful. But I think every individual or entrepreneur will find their groove, because we don't want to burn out either. We don't want to be stressed all the time. So we need to kind of proactively find our groove and learn when to shut off, learn when to take a break, learn when to be present, with and not kind of attend to work. So this is something one will learn in the process of working with experience. I don't think there's a prescribed textbook way of work life balance. It comes really individually, based on what you're trying to achieve, and how you kind of navigate through that. That's what I believe.
Yes, and I agree with you on this. जो भी अभी आपने बोला ना, I think everyone needs to hear it instead of bashing one type of mentality कि अरे तुम तो हसल कल्चर में ही हो, तुम टॉक्सिक हो, just stop it. या फिर जो अभी एक चल गया है कि आई डोंट लाइक दिस जॉब इसलिए आई क्विट इट, और अब मुझे नहीं पता मुझे क्या करना है. तो इस तरीके के आई थिंक दो एक्सट्रीम हो गए हैं. या तो लोग बिल्कुल हसल साइड में चले जाते हैं, या बिल्कुल ही जिसको बोल सकते हैं मे बी केयरलेस साइड पे चले जाते हैं कि मुझे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. तो जो आपने बोला आई थिंक इट इज मोर बैलेंस्ड अप्रोच, एंड इट इज आई थिंक रियलिटी फॉर द मोस्ट ऑफ अस, जो इंटीग्रेट करते रहना कि जब जो जैसा आ रहा है हमारे सामने हम उसको उस तरीके से ही डील करेंगे, राइट?
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, very interesting. And you also briefly spoke about burnout. Have you ever experienced burnout? How do you recharge yourself? Like वर्क हमारी लाइफ का एक पार्ट है, बट हमें इंस्पिरेशन के लिए, आइडियाज के लिए वी ऑल्सो नीड टू कट ऑफ फ्रॉम इट. तो हाउ डू यू रीसेट?
I think, of course, I don't know if I don't know what burnout is, because I've never completely experienced it, but I've definitely had moments of extreme kind of, like pressured situations, or navigating through difficult situations. But I always seek help. I think asking for help is also a strategy. And I always kind of, I reach out, and I try to get help. But also, what I do personally is I love to take breaks in between. So I like to travel. I think that really helps me clear my head, even short 2-day trips, or, wherever. So I try to do that, when I feel like I need to like step away a little bit. And I do periodically take those. So that really helps me kind of come back and reassess and things like that. So I think asking for help, getting help, and doing something in between that helps you kind of like recoup, or reset, like you said, once in a while. It could be once in a month, it could be once in 3 months, like whatever works for you, right? So I think things like that is important.
Yes. And Madhvi, what's your personal definition of success?
I think a success as a terminology is very subjective. My success could not be success for you,
Yes.
right? So it's extremely subjective. And for me, I think achieving certain milestones with my company, with Space Basic, and also kind of being being able to do that on my own terms is success to me. And at the end of the day, it's extremely gratifying when you see what you build, changing lives, in a way, in small ways or big ways, right? And I think that is most important. And our immediate goal is to really empower a million students life with Space Basic. And that's our immediate goal. But yeah, I mean, I think doing what I love in my own terms is success for me.
That's wonderful. And now, Madhvi, we would also like to know the best advice you got.
I think is fail fast, fail but
Hmm.
fail fast.
Uh-huh.
So that way you're learning, and you're learning from whatever mistakes that you did, and you're moving through on. The other one was, when I was going through a difficult period, especially with Space Basic, and this was beginning, right? When I just started, I was like, I didn't know, it was very hard to land my first customer. I was just like struggling through that process. I think one of my mentors said resilience in a startup is everything. And I think being able to be resilient, and we went through two pandemics with colleges being closed, and you were still successfully be able to kind of get out of that and do great. So I think being resilient and really focusing on problem solving is almost the ethos of every entrepreneur. And I think that was very good advice.
Yes, definitely. And what advice do you have for women looking to get into entrepreneurship?
I think passion drives everything, men or women. So if you're extremely passionate, if you're extremely kind of driven to give it your all and see it through, be resilient and kind of like make sure. I mean, entrepreneurship is hard. It's many hard days, a few good days. Those good days are everything. Make up for
Mm.
all of that we go through. So it's really passion driven. So if you're really passionate and you really want to see what you build through, and you really want to kind of you have that passion to be able to build and create and sustain, I think then definitely it's a beautiful journey, and it's something that you will love and cherish, and it will change your life.
Yes, yes. We always have a sass it up section in our podcast where I ask for a comeback from my guest to a certain situation which people like them face a lot. But we already covered it with your real life experience. I'm letting go of sass it up for this episode, but we'd like to know, are you a reader, Madhvi? And if you are, what is your favorite book?
I am a reader. I do read, but I read mostly startup books.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last book that I read was The Intelligent Investor. So it was a book, I mean, just about, finance and investing and things like that. So I like reading self-help books like that. I think it gives you perspective and really opens up your kind of mind to different possibilities. So I definitely enjoy reading, self-help or, just autobiography of entrepreneurs and things like that. Yeah.
Uh-huh, okay. And now that you have talked about it, we'd like to know which autobiography is your favorite.
I just read The Shoe King. It was that was
Uh-huh.
my last autobiography. It's about Nike and how
Oh,
it was started and everything. That's a good read.
okay. So, Madhvi, we have talked about everything from entrepreneurship to life to your interests. And before we let you go, please tell us a little more about the work your company does, you do, and how can people find out more about it?
Sure. So at Space Basic, our goal is to empower universities, drive student success with a connected campus experience. Now, what that means is we focus on four things and we do those four things really well. One is automated campus housing. So, hostels, right, in universities, big or small, are almost always manually driven, or they might have some software which from an ERP, which really doesn't cover it. It's very extensive in terms of day to day communication, etc. So we digitize all of the day-to-day activities, and then the next step is we provide AI-driven insights that helps university management reduce costs as well as increase operational efficiencies within student housing communities. That's our flagship product, and we have over 60 customers who absolutely love it. Over 1.5 lakh users on Space Basic. Apart from that, something that we recently launched is digital cafeteria. Our goal is to help universities reduce food wastage. So we digitize meal consumption trends, and we have also work with AI tools, also where we're able to tell the university what's your average meal consumption trends, what is your foot traffic, etc. So in mess or in cafeterias, they're able to save extensively, almost 30-35%, and that runs in crores in terms of food wastage. More importantly, you're saving food, and that's what we would like to
Mhm.
achieve. Um, Space Basic Pay is our third offering, which is really micro macro payments, very seamless kind of making payments throughout the campus, and smart IDs. So we have a QR based ID card that you can literally, enter and exit through any point on campus, and it can be configured and customized in any way. Extremely safe and extremely, usable in all the different possibilities on campus with a very secure kind of student access control. View for universities. So that's what we do. We digitize student experiences on campus with our four main offerings.
Okay, this is all very interesting and very new to me. I really enjoyed talking to you, learning your point of views and also learning about your business कि हाँ एक different तरीके का idea था, आप उसको कैसे life में लेकर आए, आपने कैसे उसको approach किया और कैसे अभी भी आप उसको scale कर रहे हो. तो I really enjoyed talking with you, and I'm sure that the listeners of Little Fixes would love listening to you, and they will have their own takeaways. Madhvi, thank you so much for being on Little Fixes and sharing your experiences and insights.
Thank you so much. It was my absolute pleasure.
अगर आपको ये एपिसोड वैल्यूबल लगा तो प्लीज हेल्प लिटिल फिक्सेस रीच मोर पीपल बाय शेयरिंग इट विद समवन यू केयर अबाउट. यू कैन ऑल्सो गिव अस अ शाउट आउट ऑन इंस्टाग्राम. मेरा हैंडल है @littlefixespodcast. दिस हेल्प्स मी इन ग्रोइंग द पॉडकास्ट और बहुत सारे और लोगों की हेल्प भी होती है इसको सुन के. आई एम ग्रेटफुल फॉर योर टाइम. अब मिलते हैं नेक्स्ट वेडनेसडे को. तब तक के लिए खुद से प्यार करते रहो और सदा सैसी रहो. बाय.